Hey everyone, it's Austin over at Oxford Retirement coming to you again with another video, educational style, and I've got 7 quick hits on the Secure Act 2.0. You may have heard that language in places. There was a lot of different provisions in that particular bill. I'm talking about 7 of them today. One of my favorites, and the first one I'm going to talk about, is an interesting option for surviving spouses. One option for a surviving spouse is just to take over the IRA as your own and pretend it was always yours. You would do RMDs based on your own RMD schedule, and for all intents and purposes, it would be your IRA. Okay, not an inherited IRA, which is what a lot of other beneficiaries would need to do, but spouses get special treatment where it just truly becomes your IRA. One interesting option that is now available, and I've done it once already, is you can take over the IRA but have the RMDs based on the off the deceased spouse. Okay, and this is going to probably be used more in cases where surviving spouses are older than the spouses who had passed away. If your spouse passes away at a young age and you inherit their assets, because basically, like in this case, the person who had passed away was born in 62, which based on the new RMD rules, their RMD age would be 75, which means they need to start taking out distributions from their accounts at 2037. Okay, that person passed away. The surviving spouse was born in 58. Their RMD age was 73, which means they would need to start taking out RMDs in 2031. So if he were to just take it over as his own and do his own RMD schedule, he'd have to start taking out RMDs in 2031. If he uses the new rules, he can base it off his spouse, who had another 6 years on top of that before she had to take out RMDs. So it gives them several more years to delay their RMDs, which can be advantageous in some particular cases. This particular case, they didn't really plan on using the money. It was going to be an inheritance anyway, and taking it out and taxing it just at higher tax rates just didn't really make sense for them. So they're really just pushing that onto the beneficiaries, which we'll see how that works out. But kind of a cool option to be able to do that anytime the IRS is willing to provide some more flexibility. I'm all for it. So that's that one. Number 2, and actually these next 6 here are really based on employer-sponsored plans. Some are going to have these rules, some are not. 401ks and employer-sponsored plans can be customized based on what the employer wants to do with it. So not all of them, and that's why I'm just telling you outright, not all of them will adopt these new provisions. Now, I will say, I will bet there will be quite a few that will, because many plans use what's called just a generic template 401k. So there's like the safe harbor rules they would adopt, and some other really basic rules that like most 401ks follow. And if some of this gets added into those templates, then there's going to be a wide adoption of it. It's just going to depend. You're still going to have to check the employer-sponsored plans rules. Each one's a little bit different. I've seen some wonky ones. But anyway, number 2, there is now an option that the IRS is giving where you can take out $1,000, up to one distribution per year, up to $1,000 for unforeseen emergency expenses out of 401ks, plans, and whatnot, and you'd still avoid the 10% penalty, just giving you a little bit of flexibility to access the money, and you can choose to pay back the money within 3 years if you want to do so. You may or may not. Flexibility is great. I don't know that I'm really going to advise anybody to do that. In-plan emergency savings accounts. So this is number 3. Basically, they're giving the option, and it has to be Roth dollars up to $2,500, where it can sit in a savings account. Think of it like your 401k is the car, and this emergency savings account is like this sidecar attached to the car. And in that sidecar, you can put up to $2,500. And if you need it, you can take it. And then you can put it back in there as well, I believe. Kind of a cool option. Again, a lot of people don't save up maybe what they need to have in case of emergencies. I'm sure you've seen the reports about how many people wouldn't be able to handle a $1,000 emergency expense. So it's nice to have a little bit of flexibility, and that's just within the employer-sponsored plans. This one's made, number 4 has made quite a bit of news. You probably have heard of this one. Employers can now match student loan debt payments. So if your employee is paying on a student loan, employers can choose to match those payments. That one I won't talk about. You can go read about it. There's articles all over the place for that one. Number 5, a 10% penalty exemption. Remember, this is going back to the penalty for early withdrawal. If you're under 59.5, you can't take money out of the 401ks, most retirement accounts, without a 10% penalty. But a 10% penalty exemption for withdrawals related to domestic abuse. Obviously, this one's made headlines quite a few times over the last couple of years, Hollywood and whatnot, all those crazy stories that have come out. It's nice to see. Basically, the IRS is giving you a little bit more flexibility if you're stuck in that sort of a situation. You can access the smaller of $10,000, which is going to move up with it based on inflation, or half of your account. Hopefully you're not in that particular situation, but it's not subject to a 10% penalty. So it's kind of a nice exemption for those in those sorts of situations. It's nice to see they're actually paying attention. Okay, so number 6, hardship distributions being allowed in 403B plans. So this is just giving a little bit more flexibility around the hardship rules and adopting those into the 403B plans. They're very common on 401ks, just not so much on 403Bs. And then last would be the mandatory distribution. So if you leave an employer and typically have less than $5,000, the employer oftentimes will force the money out of the plan. There's a company that basically is set up to receive, I would say, probably 90% of those forced distributions. It stays as an IRA, but now you got to go work with that other company rather than the company you were dealing with originally. And the reason being, they just don't want you in the plan with small balances, more work than it's worth for them. So they force you out. If it's under 1,000, they usually force it out and just send you a check. A lot of people aren't aware of that, but they'll literally just send the money to you, and sometimes it's taxable, and it just shows up because you forgot. But what they're changing is the IRS limit was 5,000 before. Now plans can go up to 7,000. So they can adopt the rules. It doesn't mean everyone's going to, but balances under $7,000, if you have money in the plan and you no longer work there, are likely going to be forced out. I would imagine many plans adopt that with the small account balances. Bonus fact, thanks for coming to the end here with me. One rule that was passed but now has been delayed is high income earners were going to be forced, if they wanted to make catch-up contributions to employer-sponsored plans, forced to put those in the Roth so that they pay tax and at higher rates. That has now been delayed until 2026 because, I don't know, I guess somebody got mad. But that one's not in effect for another couple of years, so we'll get to it when we get there. If it's still around, they could change it tomorrow. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope this is educational. If you have questions, you know where I'm at. Again, this is Austin at Oxford. See you next time.